and tonight we're going to talk about some of our ceramic products and do this Snowman platter project. So please comment, tell me where you're from, and let me know you're out there. We are live. Okay. All right. So we're going to wait a few minutes and get some more people on before I actually get started. So type in the comments, tell me where you're from. Hey, Ruth from Florida. I know where she's at. So we're going to let some people get on and then we'll get started. So say hello. Tell me where you're from. Superior, Wisconsin. Hey, Den, how are you this evening? Okay, glad you could join me. Hey, Brenda, Julia, excuse me. It's been a crazy day today. We are going to do the Snowman platter project. I'm going to actually do it on a box lid tonight instead of another large platter because this is like a 16 by 12 platter. Just to show you how you can adapt the pattern and put it on, multiple things. Okay. Hey, Gracie. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my overhead. So give me just a second. And I'm going to hide. Yeah, I know. Hold on. I'm trying to find myself. Oh, my goodness. Is it there? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So tell me in the comments if you can hear me. Debbie, now, Jen, somebody to make sure you can hear me. Okay, you should definitely be able to hear me now. I finally got my controls going. Okay, so this is the platter that I posted on Facebook. I'm glad you like it. Thank you, Den. Okay, so we have a new feature. If you weren't on the last couple times with us, that certain comments will pop up on the screen, and I will try to hide them if it interferes with anything that I'm doing, here on the piece. Okay, so there is a blog on the website that has the link, and Jenny will put that in the comments. Thank you, Nancy. Okay. So here is the link also. If you're on YouTube, you can follow that link. So the blog is for the pattern and the technique, and then you can, use it. There's I think there's 2 pages, one with pictures, one with the technique, and then the other one is the pattern. Okay. So you can find that there. And then we'll have different things throughout the evening that I'll pop up as far as products that I'm using. Okay, so this was just a bisque piece of ware. Like I said, it's a huge piece. So tonight, this is your pattern that's out there. And I went ahead, even though I used a stencil, it's nothing that we have, but it's just a stencil. I don't even remember where it came from. So what I did was I laid it down, traced it for you guys so that you'd have the words there if you choose to put that on there. Okay. So what I'm using tonight is a box lid. This is a Duncan piece of 04 bisque, and I just put him in the corner, still put the holly up there. And then if you wanted to do the Merry Christmas and something like this, you could even put it down here. So, I mean, there's all kinds of options. The flatter the surface, the better it is, because of the fact that if you're going to use the stencil for the snow flurries in the background, you'd need to have something flat or fairly flat, okay, to work on. Okay, let me put that back down there and see if that's better. She said it was a little blurry. I apologize for that. Okay. I can tell you that just from posting the pictures, we've already sold out of the flurries. So hopefully I can get some more in before the holidays. But you may have another snowflake stencil that will work also. Okay. All right. Are we better, Jenny? Not blurry anymore? Okay. Well, I will zoom in closer. So what I did was I put the pattern down. Okay. So here's the pattern. I laid tissue paper over it. I traced it with the pencil. Okay. Let me get rid of that. Okay. Traced it with a pencil. And then I came on to my bisque. And with the tissue paper, you can visually see, where you want to place it. And then I took the Statler Tri Plus fine liner. It has a tip. This is a new one. Sorry, that was like a Sharpie. And when you trace over the line, it transfers to the piece. Okay. So let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see that. All right. So I went ahead and transferred it because of time. So Statler Tri Plus fine liners, and I had posted maybe 2 weeks ago, Amazon had some of these on sale, and they had some really good buys. You can go back down to my feed on my page. Here's what a package of 36 looks like. So you've got choice of all different kinds of colors. I have a lot of students that would transfer, say, the snowman in one color, and then they might transfer the scarf in another, and or the leaves versus everything else, and it is a different way to look at it and keep yourself straight on what is what. Okay. All right. So the first thing we need to do is the background. So what I did was I used 150 light cerulean, and then I took the CSP 01 gloss medium, which is our clear glaze, and I mixed that 50-50, which I've already got mixed up here. And then you're going to take a sumi brush, medium sumi brush, and I've filled a well with water, so I've just got water in a small little bottle that I filled it up, and I'm going to take a healthy scoop into that water. You always start with water or your lightest color and add your color to that. If I would add water to this, it's going to end up being a lake before I ever get like a wash. Okay. Yeah, somebody asked the snowflake. Yes, Debbie, that snowflake is sold out right now. You might be, she's asking about the stencil. It is sold out at the moment. I will try to get some more in. There's all different kinds of things you can use. There's other ones out there on the market too. So what you're going to do is load with that wash. Remember, when you make the wash, the color is heavier than the water. You need to keep that stirred up as you're going. And we're just going to do a watercolor background. I just call it my little mush mush. And you're going to constantly turn the brush, keep that stirred up, and move it around. You want to try to stay off of your design if at all possible. If your design gets wet with this wash, it will start to bleed a little bit, which is okay. I'm all right with that. Just make sure you get it close to your design. Okay, so this is just a watercolor background. I'm not worried about those stems. I can put that on top. Okay, so Jenny said it's buffering, and it's my internet connection, guys. We have had weather here in the last couple of hours, so I'm hoping that it's not coming back, so I apologize if it seems blurry. Hopefully it will fix itself. I'm hoping. Was there any questions, Jenny? So this is color concentrate, okay, mixed with the gloss medium. And the reason I mixed it with the medium is because I want the open time in the acrylic world or toll painting world. The word medium is an extender or an opener. So basically, I'm going to go around the edges on this. it allows that color to stay open longer so that I can manipulate it and move it around and fix anything that I want to do. So I've mixed it 50-50 with the concentrate and the gloss medium. You could actually use any of the mediums to do that with, because it's just keeping it open. It really doesn't matter which one it is. If you're out of one, use the other one if you're just working on bisque. Okay. So how are we doing? We're better now. Okay. Looks like the internet is better. So maybe that storm is going to go away. Yeah. You can do that. Den says, could you do the wash in the background first and let it dry? True, you could, but I wanted to show you that it's not going to make that much of a difference because it's such a light color that it's really not going to affect anything. And you can see that I'm out. I'm going to add just a little bit more water. But absolutely, you could do that, Den. Not a problem. If you're more comfortable with that. Me, I'm too impatient and I want to just get it done. So, okay, that was a big boom somewhere. Let's hope we don't lose. I don't know what that was. I don't know that you guys could hear it, but it was, I don't know, almost like a blast. Okay, so I think you can see how it's got a shaded area where it's watercolory. This area is a little light over here, so I'm going to go back and add some. If you had an area that maybe this has a little bit of a curve to it or a line, you can just take water on your brush and just go back and you can soften any of that and change and move it around. And that is because we have the gloss medium. So anytime you add any of the medium to any of your concentrates, you basically turn this into a colored glaze. Think of it that way also. Or if you use other brands or have used other brands in the past, this would be equivalent of a concept stroke and coat, a fun stroke, that type of product. Okay, without buying another product. You're just using one of the mediums. All right. So the next thing that we need to do is the scarf. So what I did on that, I did the whole scarf. And I think you can kind of see him over here. Solid green. And I'm going to use the stubby brush, and I did mix this equal parts. I think I've got enough of the gloss medium also with that, and I used the stubby brush, which is the mongoose hair, so it's a little stiffer hair. And the reason I did that is because I wanted it to have like a fuzzy or textured look to it, and I think you can see highs and lows, dark and light in there. So that's how I got that type of an effect. So I'm just going to mix it with the brush, and then we're going to stipple on 2 coats of it. Any questions, Jenny? Okay, no questions. All right. So hopefully you guys are having a good evening tonight. And hopefully you can find uses for this pattern. Don't forget, Jenny has posted, and I did too on my page, the link for the blog. And if you just scroll down, it says click here for pattern and instructions. And all you got to do is click on that. So I'm just stippling it in so that it has some highs and lows, meaning darks and lights, different tones. And I'll do 1 coat. And I am going to go ahead and wrap this around the edge. And you notice how I'm doing each section individually. So, and I want to turn this sideways so you can see. So I'm just kind of, I'm not pushing really hard about like that. So it's not even bending the bristles. And I'm doing each section individually. Could you just go across it? Sure. But I want it to make sure that I'm doing it all the same way as I'm going down. That way it looks like it belongs in that area. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to just lay that brush down. Now, if you don't know, on these paint well, these little bubble palettes, there's like two little nibs here. If you lay your brush between those, then your brush won't roll. Just a little tip. So I can do that over here on the other side. You guys can't see it, but at least it's there. And then you will take a number 6 square shader. This is our 5200 number 6. And Jenny, you want to put that link up? I'm not sure I can do that and still. Always wet your brushes first, blot. Okay, I'm going to use that same green, and I'm going to apply 2 coats to the holly leaves. Try to follow the direction of your pattern. You wouldn't want to go crossways. You want to kind of just follow it as if you were stroking it on. Okay, so I'm just following the outline. All right, do we have any questions? Okay, no question. You guys are quiet. You guys were quiet last time. If you are a glass painter, you could always take the pattern and just use the designers or the regular enamels. The Snowman would look really cute if you did his body with the white bubble art between the glass to give him texture. He would be really fun to do. Okay, so you can see that. Okay. All right. Let me get rid of that. Okay. Was that a question, Nancy? Oh, the nib. Okay. Got it. All right. I'm going to add a little turntable underneath me so it's easier. And it also raises the piece off of the table. So anytime you've got, even though this is a box lid and it has a curved edge, so keeping it flat, all the moisture is going to stay within the piece. If you lift it up, you can even just put a brush handle underneath it and lift one corner. That's going to at least allow air to circulate and allow it to dry faster than what it normally would. Okay, so let me show you this. So we're going to put 2 coats on the scarf, and you can see how it's kind of modeled, highs and lows, and we're putting 2 coats on the leaves. Believe it or not, the background is that 150 that I did the wash of. The snowflakes are also that same mixture of 50-50. It's just because we sponge on through the stencil that you get a completely different color. So I'm not adding another color to it. So every time you add a layer of a color, it's going to be darker. So when you're adding that on top, it's going to be darker. All right. So let's go back and add another coat to the scarf so that we can get this drying while we're working on other things. You could do this on greenware if you're a traditional studio and you want to work on greenware. You would just have to make sure anything that has the glaze in it, just make sure it's not on the bottom of the piece where it's going to stick to the shelf. Okay, but you could do it. So Virginia wants to know on glass, what could she do this with? You could do it with the regular G series enamels, or you could do it with the designers. Now you have to adapt a little bit, but I'm more than happy to help you achieve that. So you could take the lighter green, just like we're doing, the stubby brush, and do the same thing for texture. And then you could actually, on glass, what I would do is take one of the Q-tips so once the green was on, I would take one of those pointed Q-tips and I would kind of scratch off where my red lines are going to be. That's how I would try to accomplish that. And then the snowman part, so his snow, the head and the body, I would use white bubble art, BA002, and I would put that underneath and between so that it would make bubbles. It's kind of cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse this brush because we've got our 2 coats on there. Any other questions? Okay, let me get rid of that. Okay, but good question. And Virginia, you can message me if you need more help on that. Okay, but you can always adapt any of my patterns. You know, I have probably 400 designs out there that are ceramic and glass, and any of those can be adapted to either or. Okay, so don't hesitate to use the pattern. And there's quite a few on the blogs that match the videos, so check those out. So I'm going back with the number 6 square shader, and I believe Jenny put a link in there to that for 2 coats. Okay, thank you. Yeah, check those out, Virginia. I think, I don't remember if the kits, bubble art kits, are on sale or not. I can't keep track of all it. Too many things. Next week, I will not be on because I actually will be on the road driving back. I'm headed to Alabama to teach for 3 days. So if you need something, get your orders in today or tomorrow at the latest, because I'm leaving Thursday about noon and headed to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, teaching ceramics and glass. The other nice thing is if for any reason you make a mistake or go outside your lines and you have your products mixed with the medium, I can take just a damp brush and I can push it back because it's going to move, because it's got the medium in it. It's an extender. It keeps it open longer. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Now I'm going to use 112 Candy Apple Red. We do have some color kits. The CC Enhancer kits are on sale. And then we have an underglaze kit that has a sample. It's got kit number 1 colors, plus it has clear glaze. And so here is, okay, so there is 1 kit, and those are on sale. I think Jenny's got the link to that one coming in. Yes. Okay. All right. And then Jenny, you gave him the link for the square shader. Okay. All right. All right. So now I'm going to switch and I'm going to use the number 2 round. This is our 5000 series, number 2. Always dampen your brush. And then I'm going to just paint in, or you could use the square shader up here on the band of his hat. So what we have to do is put in the stripes on the scarf, and the band on the hat is solid. The berries will go in last. Okay, so those don't go in right now. But since we need a couple of coats, 3 coats on the band, I'm going to go back to the square, the number 6 square. And then if I need that round to get in a tight area, I will do that. Try to make sure that your strokes are long and not pat. You want to, most continuous stroke is better so that you don't show brush strokes. Okay. And you can see, let me hold this up. Do you see that was that pink line of the marker and how it's bled out and faded? So the more moisture or product that gets on your transfer lines, they tend to bleed. Okay. Now it's going to go away in the firing. It's not going to hurt anything. But if you were to go over the whole thing, you put a pattern on first and go over it, then everything's going to start bleeding and you don't know where your start and stop. It's going to be harder for you to accomplish that. Okay. So I'm just going to, you can usually with any product put on 2 coats, and then you need to let it dry. And I'm going from one side and then the other side, and I'm keeping it as smooth as possible. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, no questions. All right, I'm going to let this dry just a little bit more and do the nose. The nose is 116 Florida orange, 2 to 3 coats. That way we get all of this drying. And then the leaves should be dry, and I'll show you how to shade those. And I'm going to go to that number 2 round, the 5000 series, because we've got a point. So fully load. So when you're loading your brush, don't just load the tip of the brush. That's something that's really common. And I think that probably comes from the fact of maybe doing acrylics where you don't want it. But you need to really think of it as shampooing the brush with the product. Okay, so you need to get enough on there that it carries across so that you can get those long, fluid, continuous strokes. And smooth it out. You don't want any ridges. If you get too thick, too heavy, you could have popping of the color. So you want to keep it as nice and smooth as possible. Okay. Any questions? Nope. Okay. All right. So that's going to dry. So, and I probably should, well, I know I shouldn't have even put the face on there because of the fact we're going to cover it up. So I'm going to start that while some of this other is drying. So what I'm going to use is neutral clay dimensions. So showing you another way. So this is what we pipe with on ceramics with the piping bottles. But this one is neutral, meaning white. Okay. It does look like slip. Okay. And always stir that up. It's hard to shake because it's pretty thick. And we are going 2 parts of the clay dimension. Just a little bit more. And we're going to add 1 part of Glacier White, which is our color concentrate white. My bottle's about empty. Oh, I did get some more. Let me just get a little bit more out. And then we're going to go 1 part of the CSP 01, the gloss medium. So the clay dimensions is fine for piping by itself, but since what I'm doing essentially is tinting it white, making it whiter, okay, than what it is, and I'm adding glaze to it to ensure that I don't have any problems with it getting thick and popping. So it's just adding more adhesive basically to it. The glaze is going to make it stick to your piece. Okay. So just get that all mixed up well. Rinse that brush because it's got clay in it. And go back to your stubby brush. And we're going to stipple on 2 coats onto the Snowman. So this is how you give him texture. Now let me hold this one up and see if you can. I'm not sure that you can tell. I mean, there you go. It's hard to show. But anyway, there is a little bit of texture there. You know, and I have even taken, so go right over his eye and everything. And I'm just stippling it on. Okay. You can even take, if you wanted to get really fancy and it was like this box lid, you could take white frit, glass frit. You heard me say that, glass frit, or you could use clear. I wouldn't use over a medium size, and you could mix it into your second coat. And because you're on a flat surface and not an upright surface, okay, a flat surface, it would just give a more glossy look to it. You could even do that on a scarf. You could add, you can change this out and use the clay dimensions, add some of the frit. I mean, there's all different kinds of things. Just remember, don't do it on an upright surface because it could run on you because you're going at a hotter temperature than the frit is normally supposed to go. I hear it rumbling outside. Let's hope we don't lose power, which we've done before. Okay, so I got a little bit on his nose. I'm just going to kind of take that off. And then I'm also going to use this brush to kind of get close to his nose. Now, ideally, you could let one thing dry, kind of like Den was saying earlier, and then come back and do the other. But we're on a time constraint, so I'm pushing it, trying to get all this on there. All right, don't forget to do his body. We are giving away a jar of the neutral clay dimensions tonight, a 3600 liner, and a pattern of your choice worth $14.90 or $14.50 or less. So be sure and comment so that whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook, that way Jenny puts you in the chance of winning when she picks from the comments, okay? So be sure and comment, say something, say where you're from if you're just joining us. So we're working on ceramics tonight. This, you can see that there's, let me get rid of that. Thank you, Brenda. The sheen is gone here, but you can still see it's wet here because it's shiny. So I can go ahead and put that second coat on his little face now. So I'm just stippling it on. So hopefully you'll be able to use this. It's really cute on this box lid. I was glad I had it to show you that way, because some people only see the piece that it's done on. They don't get out of the box, so to speak. And so it's nice to see it done on a second piece. That way, hopefully it'll give you some ideas. Okay. All right. So be sure and rinse that brush because you've got that clay in there. And I like to always check on my paper towel to make sure I don't have any color or product. It'll appear there. So now our leaves are dry. So we're going to use CC 162 Laurel Green. The darker colors are thicker, so be sure and shake those up. And it won't take very much, just a pea-size amount of that. And go back to your square shader. Okay. 1 second. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, so when you're doing your shading on the leaves, okay, we're going to shade, and we're going to shade the outside. See here, where I've got the darker green along the outside, and then we'll use a liner to put the center vein and the side veins in. Let me put it this way, and maybe you can see that a little bit. Okay, so let me explain how to do that, because sometimes people don't understand how to float color. So you want to water load your brush, drag off the side of your brush or bin, your water basin, whatever you're using, on the flat edge, not on the side of it. You want to keep the brush flat. And then I keep the writing of the brush towards me. I corner load in that green. Can you see the dark green on there? It's hard to see it. And then you're going to blend in your palette. Flip it over, color next to color, and blend. A lot of times I will do it twice the first time I load. You want to do that quickly. And then you want to follow the outside. So I'm just gently pressing down and following that shape. Okay. Now, ooh, it's thundering, you guys. Let's hope we don't lose power. I noticed my internet connection is not the best at the moment, and that's probably why. So I like to go do one side on all of them, whether it's the left or the right. And I'm just going back here and picking up my color that's on my blending area. I'm not reloading with color. There's enough on there turn your piece so that it's comfortable. Don't sit here and try to go, you know, on different areas. You need to turn it, and I'm going to rinse my brush and start fresh, because otherwise I get dark green all the way across, riding of the brush up towards you. That way you always corner load in the same corner and just blend in that same area. You'll waste less product doing that. So I'm just making like little C strokes. I'm going to grab some more of that blend. So a little bit of pressure that fades it out. Grab more color. Now, if you're on glass, you will have to do more of a two-color blend with enamels to do these. You won't be able to, well, you can, but you have to be quickly on top of the dried enamel. Otherwise, it loosens it up. Okay, so then we're going to reload again and come back on the other side. Now, my color's on this corner over here. I just noticed I got something else on there. Start over. I'm going to flip the brush over now. So my color is on the other side now, so that it follows that edge. Okay. So just slight pressure and follow. You don't want to stand up on the chisel. You got to have some pressure so that it fades from dark basically to nothing in the middle there. So press and lift, press and lift, press and lift. Any questions on the shading? Everybody understand how to do that? About every third or fourth one, you're going to have to rinse and reload. Just make sure that you don't have any water on your ferrule that could drop down into the bristles and then cause color to basically slide off or run down on your piece. And then when you're doing the opposite side, just don't forget to flip your brush over so that color is on the other side. Any questions, Jenny? Okay, no questions. All right. And this is just a real quick and simple, you know, just trying to show you how easy you can make it if you want. Okay. Piece of cake. 10. You're funny. Okay, I expect to see yours. All right, so then what I'm doing is just thinning down some of the green using what I had out here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull in that center vein, just staying up on the tippy toe of the brush. I'll turn it sideways here so you can see. I'm just barely applying any kind of pressure. And the more you can stand up, if you've got your color thin properly, it should flow off the piece, and you shouldn't have to apply much pressure. I'm probably turning too fast and making it blurry. All right, so do you guys like having a project, or would you rather see just product information? Tell me in the comments. I have a fall pumpkin and leaf design that I'm going to do for you in 2 weeks, because next week I'll be driving back from Alabama. So the glass piece is like a little sun catcher kind of thing. So be sure and write in the comments, and Jenny can tell me. I think I need that brush. Yeah, that 3600 number 2 is really nice. It's a great brush, and I think Jenny's going to put the link in, or she already has. So 3600 number 2. We actually have 3 or 4 different sizes of this brush. So depending, this one is about a ½ inch long as far as the bristles. I prefer that versus really, really short or really long. Okay. All right. So now we need to go back. Okay, she's going to put that link back in on the comments again. I'm going to do the stripes now. Okay, with the red, go back to that same red that we were using on the hat. And we need to put more on there. But that number 2, or if you feel better, you can do it with the liner if you want. So I'm just going to make, and you'll need to put a couple of coats on here. And I'm just kind of winging it here. Projects are winning, Jenny says. Okay. And on the blog, as soon as this video finishes up tonight, the video will be, there's a link there now, but it'll be on the same page, so you can go back to that page if you forget and find it there. Okay. All right. I got to put my pattern in front of me so that I can see where I'm at. Another thing that you can do, okay, let's show this because somebody's going to say they can't see it. So with that tissue paper pattern, of course, now I've got that wet, you could go back on here and transfer your lines. Okay. So if I wanted, so Ruth is asking, the red doesn't go into the green. It does not. You know, after I painted this the other night, I thought the same thing, Ruth. I thought, oh, Paula, you messed up. But because we're not literally mixing the two colors together, we're just laying them on top of each other. That is why I think I got away with it. Okay. So anyway, you could, you know, because this is still damp, let that dry and retrace your pattern on there if you wanted. So no, Ruth, it doesn't. You just need to put, I think you can see him over here. I put only 2 coats on the red stripes, and I probably should have put 3. So, you know, just make sure it's dark. I'm going to show you a way to check your colors to make sure you know how solid they are. Good question, though. All right, Sandy, I see your comment, projects. Well, hopefully you can use these, those of you that have studios or you teach, you're welcome to use these in your classes. And you can even have the video playing, because it's always helpful to have that backup. I know I wished I'd had that, you know, years ago when there didn't used to be the Facebook stuff as far as having a video or a tape or a recording of it, but anymore that seems to be popular, and it's great because you can go back and refresh your memory. And I'm going to put one here, and since I brought this around, I'm going to have to add a couple of stripes down here. Okay, and then we've got one big one right here for the knot in the scarf. And you know what? This one may not turn out exactly like the other one, but that's okay. Seems like I never paint the same thing the same way twice. Close enough, but not exactly perfect. So our scarf comes out like this. And then, so see what I'm doing is I'm just taking that Statler Triplus fine liner and I'm just kind of putting me some dots on there, a guide just to keep my eye straight. Okay. Sorry. Gotcha. Yeah. So Miss Jenny is telling me when there's a comment and I'm down at the bottom of the screen. So I'm trying to move that as quickly as possible off of there. But thank you for commenting. You're welcome, Cindy. I'm glad you are enjoying it. And all the projects. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my square shader and I'm going to apply another coat to that hat. And see if you get it loaded really well. Do you see how that just about covered the entire thing? Just smooth it out to make sure you don't have any ridges of color, because you don't want it to be too thick. And then we're going to go back to the 116 Florida Orange and apply to that nose. I will try to do maybe a pop-on live while I'm teaching in Alabama. She's got some big classes, so we'll see if I have time. All right, then the next thing we need to do, of course, we got to wait and let this face dry. I'm hoping it'll be dry enough that I can show you that. We're going to do the branches. So I'm going to use 186, and I apologize, my bottles are really used. 186 burnt sienna, 187 raw umber. Put a little bit of both of those out because we're going to just drag through one. Now, another thing that happens across the board, it doesn't matter whose products you're using, browns tend to dry out, okay, even in the bottle. And the way to save my particular browns, if some reason you have a problem, I'm just going to dip it. I had some of that gloss medium here. I'm just going to add a little bit of gloss medium to each one of those just to make sure that we don't have any problems. I know my 86 burnt sienna is a little older, but if you have a bottle and you're applying it to your, maybe you've had it for 5 years, to your bisque or greenware, and you see cracking of any kind, all you have to do is just add a little bit of that gloss medium to it, and you don't lose it. I've known people that have had our products 10 years and they're still good. Okay, now I'm going to thin that brown down a little bit. So I'm loading the liner brush. This is that 3600 liner. Now I'm going to take some off of my ferrule. I don't want that little bubble of color there. And then I'm going to drag it through the dark so that I get both colors on there. Now, hold your brush underneath your hand, because what I'm going to do is kind of roll this back and forth so that it's variegating the brown as I'm going across the branch, and also varying the amount of pressure that I put down. Okay, so pressure, lift, so I'm rolling one direction and then the other. This works great for dogwood branches, well, any kind of a branch. Okay, so you're almost laying sideways on it, but you have to be off the piece. And I'm just kind of rocking it back and forth so that I have, I'm going to go back and add a little bit more here. And when you come up on the little points, you can switch, because I will do that occasionally. Just grab both of those. Jenny, you might want to look at my weather for me just in case it's starting to rain too. Hopefully I won't lose connection. If I lose, guys, I'll just try to come back on. Let's hope I don't. Okay, so just put it in there, kind of roll. All right, Jenny says it's supposed to go north of me, but heavy rain, so let's hope it doesn't interfere with us. Okay. So anyway, you could use a darker contrasting brown. You could go to the 180 burnt umber for a little bit darker, but you're just taking that and you're just kind of, if you can look at the words on the brush, I'm rocking it one way, rocking it another way, kind of going back and forth. Okay. All right. What's Luann doing, Ginger? She says she's funny. No, I'm not starting over. Thanks, though. No, we're not starting over. You're so cute. On the brown Ruth, it's just one coat. Correct. Would it be difficult to do two is her question. No, as long as you stay, but I'll show you the finished piece. It's fairly, um, you see that? It's fairly translucent in some areas. I'm going to hit and miss with black to detail. Okay. But you could if you wanted it more solid. Remember, your color concentrates are a translucent underglaze. So no matter how you apply the colors, even though they seem opaque, they're still a translucency through your, it's almost like you're looking through a color on your concentrates. Okay. We do have the color strokes, which are more opaque. And here comes the rain. All right. So I'm going to attempt to put his little face back on there. I think it's too wet, but hey, maybe we can get him. So just line him up. And I don't want to push too hard because of the fact that, and I've used this pattern twice. I used it the other night when I made this piece. So don't throw these away. You can definitely use them, okay? And on your pattern, I put little dotted lines for the cheek so you could kind of see where it goes in case you needed to. All right, so we got our lines on there. We can go back and put a second coat of red on the stripes. Most of them are dry. If it looks wet like these over here, then it is still wet. You just want, when you're applying coats, you want the wet water puddle look to be gone. Now it may still be cool and damp, but as long as it, all right, hold on, I gotta move this comment. And what do we say? That's a great tip about the, oh, okay. Yeah, I learned that the branch tip long time ago, and I don't remember who taught me, or I would give them credit. You know, David Hoff may have been one of them. He's a, what we call, David is our, I call him this ceramic dad, or he's my ceramic dad. He kind of took me under his wing years ago and took a lot of classes with him. I've actually guest taught at his Reno and Vegas events. And I will be teaching at the Duncan IADBCT in Las Vegas the last weekend in January. And if all goes well, Jenny will be coming with me. So those of you that have seen her comment, you'll get to meet her. All right, so just apply that second coat. Try to always use, you know, the same brush so that you get the same coverage. You're not getting larger or smaller. You see how that number 2 round is what I'm using. The round, you know, is fatter at the tip, so it's going to cover more ground, so to speak. Now that I've got 2 good coats, I can use this round to come back in here and fill this in. But on those first ones, you want to use the largest brush possible in the area to get the smoothest coat to see less brush strokes. Okay. That's the key. Larger the brush, the smoother the strokes. You could even take the sumi brushes. The sumi brushes are really soft, which means they won't show as much streaking, and they're really good to base coat also in. All right, so next we need to do our berries. And I like to just pick out a handle of a brush that I like the size of. And just so, does everybody know that when you do dots, if you load for each one, you'll have the same size dot. If you don't, so in other words, if I load and load, I'm going to have the same size. If I just keep dotting, I get smaller and smaller. Those are called graduated dots. Okay, so that's one way to control the sizes of your berries, dots, whatever you're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to load that up, And here I'm going to do 3 different sizes. You can all... Okay, let me move the comment out of the way. Ginger gets a kick out of testing Luann. Is that, I'm assuming, who she's talking about? Oh, Luann teases me. Yes, she loves to do that. So what I did to make them a little bit larger is I just set it down and just kind of went in a circular motion. You could always change to a different handle. The pattern is just a guide, so don't freak out. Usually I paint larger than my pattern. See how easy and quick that is? If you want them different sizes. Load for each if you want the same size. Okay, so after you get the berries in, then you can go back when that dries and you can pull with your liner the browns down so that they meet your berries. So what I did was just go in and just bring some little thin branches out to those berry clusters. Okay. All right, so we should be able to start on his hat. When the scarf dries, we're actually going to shade around the scarf. And I'm not sure that it shows, but there is 161 is shaded to make it kind of look more rounded. So shaded on the top, shaded on the bottom, on each side to make so the lighter in the middle, and then you've got darker on the outer edges. And of course, all of this will have to dry before I can remember what I said about putting a brush handle underneath so that that helps dry. Okay. Let me get the pink and we can do his cheek really quick. Okay. So this is 131 Cabernet, which is a soft pink. I'm going to use that stubby brush again, make sure that that's not got any product left in there. And I'm going to load it, and then I'm going to stipple it out over here and make it basically have a bad hair day. See how fuzzy that looks? And you want most of the product off because you're going to just stipple in his little cheeks. You don't want them solid. You want them kind of fuzzy. And you may have to turn the brush just to make sure you get the coverage. Because you may have one side of it that seems more solid than the other. Okay. Simple. I did shade the nose, the lower side of the nose with the candy apple red. Tried not to put, I put enough colors in this already, so I tried to. So I'm going to water load, drag off to get a nice chisel edge on my brush. I'm going to corner load in the red, and then I'm going to blend that. I'm going to re-corner, blend it. I need to hold it in my hand. All right, so I'm going to just start up here on the chisel, and then I'm going to lay pressure down and follow it around. It's just very light. Very, very light. Okay. All right. Now, we also need to shade, I should have done that before I did that cheek, the blue around his body. Do you see how he's got like a blue halo around the snow? Okay, so I'm just going to use the same blue that we used in the background, just using that square shader. Again, water load, drag off, writing towards me, corner load. And you can pick up a little bit heavier with this blue because it's such a light color. I did that twice. And I'm going to flip it over because I'm going to go down this side. I'm going to grab some more color, blend it, and I'm going to go underneath. And it's already dry because all the water is gone out of my brush. So I need to reload, rinse and reload. You got to rinse the color out because otherwise it just spreads all the way across your brush, and then you've got this blue line instead of a faded line. Okay, water load, drag off, corner in the blue, blend it, and let's flip it over and do the top of his head here. And just follow that. Reload. See how often you have to reload? You can't just go the full length. You've got to stop and add more color to your brush. Blend. Okay. Any questions, Jenny? Okay. No questions. So if you've not tried our products before, that ceramic sampler kit, which is underglaze kit, and Jenny, I did not send you a link to that. It's on the color concentrate page. It has a pint of the clear glaze along with 14 colors in it. So that would be a way to try the products if you have not used ours before. Okay, so now you've got a blue hue all the way around, and that makes him look more rounded, is the reason for doing that. You could just leave it because you've got the blue out here, but it's just adds another dimension to your piece. Okay. Yes, that's it, Jenny. She's going to put a link to that. Let me see if I've got. I'm not sure I can get to it. All right, so now I'm going to use 101 Cobalt Black. Now we have, okay, we have a question. Yes. Okay, so Ruth wants to know, can you use a hairdryer or a fan to make it dry faster, or will it make it crack? On the clay dimension part, a fan. I would not use a hairdryer. If you use a hairdryer, you need to put it on the cool setting. But because this does have a clay-based product in it, it could cause it to crack. It's not on there very heavy, but just FYI, if you start seeing a problem. But otherwise, the other colors, absolutely, you could. And because this is damp from the background, it's going to keep more moisture, like I said, in the piece, and it'll cause it to be longer to actually dry. Okay, so I have a large area for the hat, so I'm going to use the number 6 square shader, fully load that, and just start painting in that hat. Good question, Ruth. Don't use like a heat gun, anything like that. No, I would not. But a fan, absolutely. Just indirect. I wouldn't put it too direct on it, especially that clay dimension area. So turn your work as you're doing things, okay, so that you can feel comfortable. Now, on his little brim here, I won't be able to use this square all the way across, but I can fill in some of the area. And then I'm going to have to go to the other brush. It will take 3 coats. You might be able to get away with 2. I think I put 2 to 3 on the, it depends on, but remember to keep it nice and smooth. You're not trying to, it's an underglaze, a translucent underglaze. You're not trying to apply a thick, heavy coat. Multiple thin coats is always better than one thick coat on no matter what products or product you're using. Multiple thin coats is better than one thick, heavy coat. Okay. Any other questions, Jenny? No questions. Okay. Okay. Okay, so Sue, um, if you want to be able to manipulate, like I did the background and move things around, and do that watercolor, then I add the clear to it, the CSP01 gloss medium. Okay. Because I was stippling on his scarf and I wanted more texture and I wanted it a little less solid, I added the clear. Now, could you achieve it without it? Yes, you probably could. I was just trying to show you different ways to achieve something. If you've already got the concentrates, you've got the clear glaze, it's another way, that you can use it. That was the main reason. It depends on what you're going to do on top of it. So where I was going to shade, and I didn't want my green, because think of it this way, when you're using just the concentrate straight on the bisque or greenware, it's going to absorb exactly where you put it. Whenever I put the medium in it, I can brush that out so I don't have a streaky background of those leaves. Okay. Hey, Miss Lucy, you were painting the snowman too? Awesome. So I lost my train of thought. If you paint straight on the bisque, you could see strokes from your brush. So if you're afraid of that, or you want to do something on top of it, a lot of times I will add the medium to it. And I have quite a few different patterns and techniques out there, one versus the other. The gloss medium is translucent. The matte and designer glaze medium are more opaque. So we'll get into some of those later. One step at a time, Sue. I just don't want you to, I know you've got a bunch of the patterns and things, so it can be confusing, but let's keep it simple tonight. All right. Okay, so you'll just paint in 2 to 3 coats. Usually 2 with the black is good. The darker the color, it's going to cover quicker and more solid. Okay. All right, let me rinse this black out. Okay, so for his eyes, you can do just the dotting thing again. Just don't get it too heavy. Okay. I'm just going to do that circle to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Once that's dry, what I did is I scratched in a little highlight. I don't think you can see that. You see how his eyes has a little tiny white highlight. You can use a toothpick, or this is a wire loop. This is a WS tool by Kemper, and I just came in and just kind of scratched that out. But you can use a toothpick also. If you don't have it, you could try the tip of a needle tool, stylus, dotter. I mean, there's all different types of things you could do. Okay, so now the scarf is fairly dry. I'm going to use 161 green leaf, and I'm going to shade the scarf real quick. It's one shade darker than the key lime that we put on there with the stubby. Again, square shader, number 6, water load, corner, blend that color. Here comes the rain. All right, and then I'm going to float it right on top of the red and everything. And I'm going to come over here and go back the other way. I think you can see that okay. Do I need to come in closer, Jenny, you think? Okay. So basically that kind of outlines And then on this side of the scarf, because there's two pieces here, remember. And I just went over my line. So I'm going to show you how to take that off. Well, we're going to have it on the other side too, so it's really not going to make any difference. I got a little too far over. I'm trying to hold it where you can see it, and so I'm butting those two up next to each other to create a shadow in there, and then just coming down. Okay. Hey, Miss Cindy. I'm glad you like him. So out on the blog page is the pattern and the instructions, general basic instructions. It's one page. Because I figured with the video, you didn't need all of that detail. Ooh, it is really thundering. I think Jenny can even probably hear that one. So let's pray that we don't lose power. Especially with the computers. That scares me to death. I don't know about anybody else, but I usually turn all mine off if I know it's going to storm. I don't want to lose anything. So I'm just going around top and bottom, sides, all of those sections. Okay, so it just adds a float of color. It's not called a float stroke, it's called a float of color. I've had people ask me that before. Okay, so I think now all we have left is, before my mixture of white that I put on my snowman, I'm going to get some water and slightly thin that. I'm going to add the highlight on my hat. This is going to be more opaque on top of that black. So I'm just going to do a little comma stroke with that 3600 number 2 liner. I'm going to turn it, and we're going to pull this one in this way to make it look like the little divot. And we can put a little one here. Get that out of your brush. Yes. Cindy's asking, how does it keep from smearing? So the underneath color, if it's fairly dry, the only reason something smears is if you put too much pressure down on the bristles of the brush, then you're going to smear whatever you're on top of. But if you're in there with a light touch, you shouldn't smear. And our color concentrates have, they're in a gel base, and they pretty much absorb into the wear, and that helps too. If you overwork anything, it will smear. Okay, that's just bottom line. So anytime, even when you're glazing, you don't want to brush back and forth too much, because if you do, you're going to end up smearing your strokes. You know, that's another myth, that people think that the longer you let something dry, that it's not going to smear when you come in with your fan brush and glaze it. That actually, because you know your glaze brush is large. Actually, I like to mist everything, and I'll show you that at the end. Mist everything, let the water let go, and then 1, 2, and 3 maybe. 1, 2, 3. If you check out the end of the Yellow Rose project on YouTube, and maybe Jenny can grab that link. It has, I don't know, the last 20 or 30 minutes, I talk about glazing and I show you. So definitely check out that. I think it'll be beneficial to you. Okay. I'm going to take the black now, and I'm going to thin it. So I'm going to grab a little bit out here and thin it down. And I'm going to run my brush through it. And I'm turning the brush. I'm not doing this back and forth. I'm loading it, pulling it through, turning it over, pulling it through, so that I get a nice point on it. Okay. When you roll it in the color, you're just knotting the hairs up. It's like taking your fingers in your hair and winding it up, if you can imagine that. Okay, so we're going to add all his little features, and you can add, you don't have to outline the hat because it's already got the black there. So see how I just kind of did like a little L shape? So that gives it a little texture, and it looks like you've got folds in that ribbon. Okay. I did the same thing on his nose. I kind of pulled in strokes, and I'm going to have to move that so I can get to here. So when you're coming around his nose, you can just pull in a few. I do this on carrots, radishes, um, anything that I want it to look more textured. It's kind of a fun way to do it. It gives it a more realistic look. See how you just come in every now and then. Okay. On the snowman itself, I did like a little kind of jig-jag, wavy, nervous, you could call it, like a nervous line, so that you want to kind of accent it, but it doesn't have, you wouldn't want it like a solid line, okay? And that also makes it look like he is over the top of his scarf. If you went straight across that, then the scarf would be on top. So I want his little skin or his snow to be bulging over, basically, is what I'm doing. And then when you go down here, go back to that little wavy, irregular, nervous, whatever you want to call it. Any other questions, Jenny? Okay. So I'm just going to come in here, and it doesn't have to be a solid line. Too much on my brush. See how I got that thick line there? So to compensate for that thicker line, I need to go back over here and possibly add a little bit thicker line here. I can do a thick and thin here. So if you happen to do that, so I just had too much on my brush, you just need to create the same look somewhere else so your eye is not drawn to that one spot. Okay, it makes it look a little more natural. Keep hitting my plate. So see how easy. Okay, put his mouth in, and it kind of comes up into the cheeks a little bit. So if you've got your pattern on there, and if you wanted, you could put the little, smile at the end. I did put a little dome underneath his eye just to kind of like his cheeks were fat and chunky. Okay. Any other questions, Jenny? Well, no questions. Okay. They are being very quiet tonight. Well, hopefully you like the project and you can find some uses for this, or it gives you, it doesn't have to be this particular pattern, but if you were just doing regular leaves, you could use the same principle on those. Okay. Now I like to accent one side of the center vein. I'm not going to do all the side veins because it's too much black. It's too much on the small area. That little hit and miss, on your branch. And see how I'm doing individual strokes. Bring those little tails out. Constantly load your brush. You want it to be loaded so that that is a well and the color is flowing down. It should feed to the end of your brush. Okay, so we're just about done other than detailing. So if you have any final questions, and then we're going to draw for prizes. So put those questions in the chat. And make sure you're commented if you just joined us so you get a chance to win. Any last comments, anybody? Or questions? I did have a question, but I forgot it. Cute, Luann. That's because you and Ginger were probably chatting back and forth. Okay, so each stroke, add that little, see, I'm just skipping along, making it nervous. You can add some lines on the larger areas. I'll need to go back in and pull in that brown before I finish later. I did add on each side of the berry, you wouldn't have to, but I kind of did on one side. And then I added a little mark for the divot in the berry. Yes, and we have to do that stencil in the background. Jenny just reminded me. Thank you. Cindy wants to know if we have to outline everything. No, you don't have to. If you like it unoutlined, that's fine. I'm just a, I don't know. Sometimes I only do one side of the leaves. That's your choice. Everybody details differently, and that's kind of like your signature. You know, you can look at a piece and say, oh yeah, Paula did that. You know, there's something there that makes it noticeable. But do you have to? Absolutely not. Make it your own. Do your own style. Good question, though. Okay. So other than just adding a few of the brown stems, but I can go back and do that. So for the snowflakes in the background, let's move this over. Make sure oh, and then I'll show you, I just scratch out that little highlight. So I've got that tool and just barely, hold on, let me remove this. Okay, so what I did was just take the tool and I scratched that little highlight in his eyes out. Okay. All right, and that was the WS tool by Kemper, or you can just take a toothpick and do the same thing. Okay. All right, so for the stencil, we need to have some of that mix that we started with in the background, the 150, before that storm gets any worse. Sorry, my bottle's almost empty. And the clear glaze, the CSP01, I mixed them 50-50 in the beginning. And I'm going to use that to pounce on the snowflakes. Could you do a dot for the white of the eye? Absolutely. Now, because you're on top of black, either use that snowman. Let me move the chat. Hold on. Okay, so you could use that mixture that we stippled on the snowman's body to give him texture. And I don't know if you can, there, you can see the texture there. See how it looks textured. So I would use that white just like I did on the hat if I were going to use a white, because the black is so black. These are translucent underglazes. It's not going to show up if you just use the 102 right from the bottle. If you have our 602 white, which is our color strokes, they're more opaque. And yes, you could use that. Okay. All right. So let me grab the stencil. So you've got different, I'm going to move my color out of the way. You've got different size snowflakes. Okay, so you're going to have to find, so this box is not as big. So like maybe I want to start with this guy up here. And I'm just going to use like one of these sponge daubers. Let me get rid of the, you're welcome, Den. Okay, and I'm going to load that up. I think you can see here. I'm going to load it and I'm going to pounce it into the sponge. So I'm working the color into it because I don't want it soppy and runny. Okay. And I want to make sure this is completely flat. And you may have to hold it down. Could you tape it down? Absolutely. Let me make sure they can see that, Jenny. Let me zoom in a little bit. And then maybe move my palette. Okay. And you're just going to sponge it on through the stencil. Get some more in there. And the nice thing is that it's got the gloss medium in it, so that if it pushes underneath the stencil, you can, so just go over it a couple of times so that it looks solid, okay, is what you're looking for, and then lift straight up. This is a true stencil. It is like a thick plastic with the holes cut out. A silk screen, it has like a meshy part of the screen that there's no holes in it. Okay. There's a misconception out there with what stencils are. And a lot of people are calling silk screens stencils, and they're not. Okay. A silk screen is made from silk and you burn an image in it. A stencil is cut on like your Cricut. So if you got Cricut or Silhouette machines, you can find your own snowflake and cut it out. Okay. But a silk screen, and I'm not sure that I've got one here. Actually, I do in just a second. Okay, so load some more. I picked a different snowflake. So hold it down as much as possible. Could you put the snowflakes on first and then paint over it so they're in the background? Yes, you could, but make sure, depends on what colors you're putting over it. Okay, so what I'm doing after each time, I've got a folded piece of paper towel and I'm going over that and I'm blotting off any of that color because I don't want, if anything went underneath, I don't want it getting onto my piece. So that makes sure there's no color on top or bottom. So yeah, you could. Absolutely. So just find a different one. Like here is a little bit smaller one. And so basically you're just doing that wherever you want them. You could come back and you could accent these. You could make snowflakes with the clay dimensions and your piping bottle and pipe them on. You could tint the clay dimensions with any of your color concentrates. Okay, so the clay dimensions is what we used for the texture on the snowman's body, but you can actually tint that with any of your color concentrates. Don't try to make black, because when you add black to white, what do you get? Gray. Don't try to get red. You're going to get pink because you're adding it to a white base. Okay, so blot off any of that color and move to another one. And like on this box, I think it'd be really cool to have this larger one. I don't know whether I can do it without, I have to put it all the way over so it's flatter, where it's kind of coming off that edge. But you see how this is falling down? So I'm gonna, that's not thick enough either. I need something that's gonna hold that up a little bit more than what I had it, okay? Because it runs off of the box there. Any other questions? I am, let me get this in the screen. I am pouncing the color into the sponge, but I'm not offloading. No, I'm just pouncing it in to make sure it's worked in is all I'm doing. You just don't want it soppy wet as you go to your piece because it's going to weep underneath the stencil if you do that. Okay, and lift. Isn't that pretty? And once again, take your paper towel, blot off that color so you don't transfer it somewhere else. And then if you have an area that's kind of wet, it'll dry just really quick. But anyway, you can keep going and you can keep adding more. But isn't he cute? All right. Yes, he is. Jenny says yes, he is. Whether anybody else. Okay. So all I did was just load the color, Kim, and then tap it in so that it's worked in there and it's not sitting on the end. Okay. All right, we got another question. Just how fast does it dry? Replacing the stencil on top seems like it would smudge. Actually, as soon as that wet look goes away, which right now there's no wet look there, it's going to dry pretty fast. If it looks shiny and like a water puddle, don't try to put your stencil back down. But that's a good question. I mean, if you've got something else to do, then you can do one or two if they happen to be side by side on your stencil, and then walk away and come back. But it doesn't take very long. I mean, less than, I would say, maybe 2 minutes. You can see this one's almost completely dry, just the center where it's more solid there. Okay. Okay, so Luann has a question. She's changing the subject on us. She wants to know about my last ornament class. Luann, you purchased that one, and there is a link in your email for the replay. If you need help with that, get a hold of me, and I will help you. Okay. So if any of you are interested, or some of you may not even know, I'm going to do a plug for my next class. And I've got to get an ornament here. So I'm doing my Christmas ornaments. These have nothing to do with Colors for Earth. They're done with folk art multi-surface acrylics. And there's a prep video on how to do the glitter on the inside. And then I walk you through how to do these 5-petal flowers. Oh, sorry, I'm moving it around. Sorry. Okay, so you learn how to do, it's still brush strokes no matter what. And you could do it with acrylics on ceramic bulbs. You could do it with your underglazes. Okay, so you're learning the technique is what you're learning. This class is on October the 10th from 2 to 5 in the afternoon. You do get the recording that evening. Hey, Lucy, thank you. We have a large class, but you can still sign up. If you can't be there, you'll get the recording. I usually send you a link that you can download the recording. I also list it on my YouTube channel as a unlisted file that only you guys that take the class have that link to watch it. Okay, so this one's coming up on October 10th. I think we've got 22 people signed up right now. So that's exciting. They've been a really popular. Here's one of the other ones. This is a flat version of it. Okay, the class is $24.95. You get paperwork. You know, everything is sent out step by steps. So there's a lot of information, and I'm there to critique if you need critiquing. Okay. Prizes. Okay, Jenny is going to draw for the clay dimensions. And I guess I'll switch my camera back. Hold on one second. Show. Hello. Okay, so the winner of the clay dimensions is Mary Ann Troutner. Okay, if you'll type that in the comments, Jenny, that really worked out real well when you did that last time, if you don't mind. So if you've not, okay, she's already ahead of me. That's the way she is, man. She is on it. Jenny is my head, my voice in my head, I call her. She is, you guys can't see her and you can't hear her, but I can hear her, which is really odd because sometimes she scares the daylights out of me because she comes across in my speaker and I'm like, ah, it scares me. Okay, the next prize, what did I have on there? Square. Okay, so that liner brush that somebody said, oh, I need one of those. We're going to give one of those away. So Jenny is going to spin. So it doesn't matter whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook. You will be counted in. Patricia Riley. Hey, South Carolina, I believe. All right. So if you win tonight, make sure you message me your shipping address if I don't have it, if you've not ordered before, and your email for tracking and your phone number on there in case there's an issue with the shipment. But you'll receive that in your, the tracking and everything is sent to you when I ship it, okay? All right, so the next one is one of my pattern packs that is $14.50 or less. You get to go pick out on the website. Okay, they're under technique packets, and what I'll do is I'll send you the PDF file. Okay, so all right, Jenny, who is the winner of that? Virginia, and spell the last name for me. Rothery, Rothery, Virginia. You win. Okay, Virginia, your name is not familiar, so make sure you message me on Facebook, or you can, I can see the comments on YouTube also. So whichever, but if you'll message me, or you can email me at info@colorsforearth.com. Info@colorsforearth.com. All right. Congratulations to all the winners. And again, I will not be on next Tuesday night. I'm going to go to every other Tuesday because of my travel schedule. I've got some classes going on the rest of the year, and it's a busy time of year for us. So to make sure I have enough time and I don't get stressed out and I can be here and be happy. Okay. Thanks for joining me, you guys, and sticking with me. And hopefully you like this. If there's something you want to see or a technique, be sure and send me a message. Leave it in the comments. You can put it on my timeline, either one, and I will try to get it in the queue. Thanks, Kimberly. Appreciate that. Hopefully I'll see you when I come to Alabama, if you're available. Okay, you're welcome, Debbie. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. We've been on for an hour and a half or so. So I will see you in 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks. And it will be a glass project. It's going to be a fall little sun catcher type thing. Okay. All right, guys, good night.